Oh, come on. I know you've spent a whole weekend here, but how we doing, South Lake Tahoe? Love it, love it. Hey, guys, thank you, everybody, for coming and spending the whole weekend here. As you probably know by now, I'm your MC and the guy that's been throwing you in the fire all weekend long. And, you know, we've had a great time here. But more importantly, I want to thank the organizing team. How about this organizing team here, huh? Yeah. Oh, my gosh. Thank you guys for pulling together an awesome event. And I mean, it just shows from top to bottom all the work you guys have put into making this happen. We got to do a couple things here, step through and thank all of our sponsors that help make Startup Weekend happen here in South Lake Tahoe for the first time. Tahoe Mountain Lab, Larker, Lake Tahoe Community College. We've got a number of folks, some that are housed over there at Tahoe Mountain Lab. Full Funnel, Tahoe Production House, Eagle, Tahoe Chamber, and Palisade were all instrumental in making this happen. Thank you guys so much. Also, if you haven't tasted out there tonight, some South Lake Tahoe Brewing Company. You probably saw these awesome stickers that are out there, produced by Sticker Giant. Coachman Hotel's been putting some people up here. Greater Sacramento Economic Council and Outsight. So thank you guys for helping make this possible. Finally, our coaches. Guys, how awesome have these coaches been this weekend? All the feedback, phenomenal. Thank you, coaches. And lastly, our global sponsors, Techstars, Startup Weekend is all made possible in part by these sponsors. Google for Entrepreneurs, Appear.in, and .co. You guys all got these great .co domains this weekend, got access to cloud computing resources, and got the ability to have a video chat room to meet with new potential customers and to tell people about your product. So that said, we've got a great panel lined up for you here this evening. Please allow me to introduce you. You guys all probably know Jamie Orr by now. Allison Cliff Jennings, CEO of Filament. John Kruger, who is the Executive Vice President for the Greater Sacramento Economic Development Council. And your own Austin Sass, Mayor of South Lake Tahoe. So at this point, I'm going to hand it over to Jamie. We've got a great discussion going on here tonight about everything that's happening in South Lake Tahoe and the greater region in terms of economic development and startups and great things like here at Startup Weekend. So that said, Jamie.
Thank you, Dan. Can we give another hand to Dan? He did a great job this weekend. Right, I noticed we're actually even sitting in the right order. That was not done on purpose. I just walked in, but that worked out nicely. One of the things we wanted to do as part of Startup Weekend is also, not only highlight the amazing work that our teams have done all weekend, whether they've been tired or stressed or not quite caffeinated enough, but also look at the bigger picture and look at what can we do regionally to really keep innovation growing. And by region, we had to really reach outside of South Lake Tahoe. We had to reach the entire basin, up into Truckee, all the way down to Sacramento and across to Reno. So I was really thrilled when there were some other people that were willing to come up on stage with me and sit down and talk about that. So what we're going to do is we're going to have kind of a fireside chat style panel. So really enjoy listening to the conversations. We're going to lead through some questions and hopefully have a really great dialogue. And so what I wanted to start with is some introductions. So I want to have each of the panelists talk a little bit about their background and their current role and also what part of the ecosystem they're in, so geographically speaking. So Allison, you want to kick it off?
Sure. Hello. My name's Allison Clift Jennings. I'm the CEO of a company called Filament, and we're based in Reno, Nevada, so over the hill from you all. we're a venture-backed startup, meaning that we've taken venture money, and we have done our share of hackathons in the past and startup weekends. Techstars is important to us as a company. Our company went through the Techstars program in New York in 2014. I personally went through it with another company in 2011, the inaugural New York program. And so Techstars and what they've done with Startup Weekend is super important in my perspective because it's where future companies start. They literally start here. And so long story short, as Filament is focused on this concept called industrial Internet of Things. This means we're working to connect this like 70% of all infrastructure across industrial verticals and make these old pieces of equipment smart and connected. So it's kind of a neat place to be. Industrial is very slow and boring in a lot of ways, but we really enjoy it a lot. It's a lot of fun.
Thank you. John.
Well, first, thank you very much for having me here. It's great. And John Kruger, again, with the Greater Sacramento Economic Council. We are a nonprofit organization. We're about 15 full-time employees with some great interns, and we represent 6 counties, including Placer and El Dorado counties. Yolo, Yuba, Sutter are some of the rest, as well as Sacramento, and 13 cities within those 6 counties. My background, I've done regional and statewide economic development for nonprofits and also for a large electric utility for the past 15 years. Prior to coming back to California, born and raised in California, so thrilled to be finally back here and a career here, but came back to Sacramento in 2015 to help create the new regional economic development group. So have worked with really small companies that are brand new, that are bootstrapped, to VC, through how to scale, through to how do you attract major companies with office and industrial. I don't think industrial is boring. I love industrial, so I might have an industrial background on the attraction level, so that was really cool to hear IoT on the industrial side. That's fun. You hear IoT on the business side a lot, on the inside offices and connected buildings, but not industrial. I love it. So I'll talk to you later because that's cool. And we also talk with communities on how to build a better community in order to make my job easier, to bring more companies, grow more companies. It starts off with the 4 key functions of economic development on a regional or statewide, and even a community basis. Start, grow, retain, and recruit are kind of the 4 kind of legs of the chair to building a good economic development plan. So really thrilled to be here. Look forward to the conversation. Thanks again for having me.
Thanks, John. Austin.
Thanks, Tammy, and thanks for everyone from coming out of town to visit our great city. I'll talk in 2 different tracks, one personal, one professional. On the personal side, I was born in Brooklyn, New York. I came to Lake Tahoe in 1974 to visit a cousin, fell in love, knew I belonged here, graduated college. 3 days later, drove my 240Z across the country and stayed for about 8 years until I was partied out. Skied everything you could ski, hiked everything you could hike, and played quite a bit. Finally decided I need to go to the real world, as we call it here. Went to the real world, had a bunch of corporate jobs, started out with Hearst and Meredith, 2 major media companies, and I was in charge of integrated marketing and corporate negotiations for both of those companies for a number of years. From there, I got recruited up to a company in Seattle across the street from Microsoft. Ran a division of a big medical company for 6 years, and from there I went to 2 VC-backed startups. One was a .com that unfortunately went .bomb, and the other one, and 6 rounds of VC funding. The other one was a software company that was angel-backed, and we successfully were able to sell that company off and do well. From there, I decided I wanted to come back to my home in Tahoe, raise my family here, so I came back here and I took a step down and went to work for Vail as director of sales so I could come back here and raise my kids here. I ran for mayor about 3 years, for city council about 3 years ago, and was made mayor about a year ago. In the job as mayor, it's about setting policy, managing budgets, and trying to carve out a good future direction for our city, working in partnership with all of the businesses in town, while at the same time trying to make sure that we protect the local quality of life. So a little background.
Awesome. Thanks, Austin. And I guess I should probably also give my background, huh? Yeah. So Jamie Orms. I'm one of the founders of Tahoe Mountain Lab, where all of these people have been living the past weekend. So it's our local co-working space. But my true background is physics. So I did my PhD in theoretical physics and was on the college professor track when I realized that I wanted something different. I actually really liked the entrepreneurial scene. And so I liked working with companies and working with new tech, especially in like the clean tech space. And so 4 years ago, actually almost 4 years ago, my husband and I left Silicon Valley and moved up here and founded Tahoe Mountain Lab. And we've been so happy to just be working with this community and watching the direction that this region's going. So I'm looking forward to some of the conversations that come out and the companies that come out of this weekend to keep that trend moving upwards. All right, so let's go ahead and dive in. I'm going to start with John. And then, of course, like I said, fireside chat, so we'll just discuss this and go back and forth. And if you want to steal my mic, too, feel free to. So, Allison, don't worry about just grabbing it from me. All right, so Sacramento. What are we seeing in the Sacramento area in regards to the growth of entrepreneurship just in the past, couple years? And then we'll talk a little bit about Reno as well, and we'll kind of see how we can bleed that into South Lake Tahoe.
Well, sure. So as I mentioned, I have about a 3-year background, but we did
Perfect.
We did a lot of research as to what was happening now that's different than was happening 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Looking at trend analysis is a key aspect into building the right kind of economic development plan, is to look at where you've been and where you want to go. So I think the biggest change that's happened is from an entrepreneur is scale. Even 3 years ago when we first came to town, we had maybe a half dozen to a dozen companies reach out and say, hey, we're brand new. There's 10, 20 of us that are kind of serial young entrepreneurs. There's some that are the Chris Kellys of the world, that was an early chief privacy officer for Facebook, and he's left Silicon Valley and created a couple of companies in Sacramento. So you have that type of entrepreneur that's kind of said, all right, I've got this great idea. Where am I going to house it so that I can afford to really grow it and scale it quickly? And then you've got the young companies that have an idea right there, that are born and raised ideas in Sacramento, not an idea that was born someplace else and someone's looking to put that someplace to grow. And I think both of those have really grown really exponentially over the last couple of years. So in my time, having 5 to 10, maybe 20 of these little ideas kind of bouncing around the community, to having really dozens and dozens of them bouncing around. I mean, so we'll now go to a community forum that we might have, or we might go to a different platform with IO Labs opening and kind of meeting people in kind of downtown Sacramento, and find out that there are 30 and 40 of these local ideas that are born here and bouncing around and growing. And then we've helped 10, 12 companies over the last 2 years that have good ideas that want to figure out a place to grow and scale quickly, and that's been Sacramento. So both of those have really grown a lot, which has been fun to see. And it's you need to have that scale in order to kind of bounce an idea around. Just the same idea as what you guys did here, where you have the mentors and coaches that were working. When you have an economy with a lot of mentors and coach that you can sit and talk to, you're usually more successful than if you have to try to find a mentor and a coach someplace else.
Absolutely. Now, Allison, are you seeing kind of the same trend in Reno, where you see this idea of scale, where you've got people like yourself that are kind of considered the more homegrown Reno entrepreneurs that are settling, as well as the larger companies that are coming in and also contributing to the entrepreneurial scene?
Yeah, a little bit of both. I mean, we had started there. That was Reno is our headquarters. We have 4 offices now, but Reno is our home base, and it has changed a lot. There's exactly like you said. There's two brackets here. There's the Reno Startup Weekend, started a business there, or there's the completely bootstrapped folks like Trainer Road is a popular one, if you're familiar with them. Just a couple of founders decided to do this thing. They did it amazingly well. They bootstrapped the whole thing, and they're just, bought their own building south of town, and they're just doing their thing. There are a lot of those, and they continue to increase. But there's a funny thing, because Reno, for better or worse, loves to want, it always aspires to be the Bay Area or something else. It's always like this kid brother, kid sister, and so I love Reno. I was born and raised there. I'm a native, born in St. Mary's, and so I can say this, I think, because I've been through all that. High school, college. I went to UNR and studied computer science, and it was really bad for a long time. But when you start having these other companies come in, like the Tesla building Gigafactory, and then Switch, building the largest data center in the world in Reno, and then you have Apple comes in with their data center, and then Facebook decides to throw one in there, and then Barnes and Noble distribution center, and then all of these different types of big companies. It starts to encourage people to realize that some business can be done here. Now, is Facebook headquarters in Reno? No, of course not. But it can happen there, and it's actually becoming a very strong technical infrastructure location. And so this dual approach from having these big companies that are very, high-profile names come in with these young startups starting or beginning to move there is a really positive piece. And I think that those two things together are really building culture and community and pushing forward from a startup standpoint isn't necessarily about size, it's about quality. So it's about
we have someone that wanted to be on the
right.
panel.
No problem. My last point was just to say that it's about you need a certain concentration or density of a community to build that. It does not have to be big. Like we had this thing called Startup Row, which is not quite there anymore, but it was 6 or 7 startups on the same street. And we would all run into each other at the coffee shops, and it was fantastic because it was amazing because you get that serendipity that you would get in Sand Hill Road or in Palo Alto or in the city, in the Mission or whatever in San Francisco. That's what you need to build an ecosystem. And so you don't need to be big, but you do need to be close. And so I think that this community seems to be very close as well from what I've seen, and I think that's one of the key ingredients to actually make it work really well.
Yeah, and Austin, are you seeing kind of any of these aspects pop up in South Lake Tahoe where you have kind of a mix of, the larger scale? I'm not going to say large scale in South Lake Tahoe because I don't think we can really handle that, but also balanced with some of these more homegrown entrepreneurs. Is that a trend that you're seeing here, or what can we do to create it if not? And I'm really going to kill that fly.
Now it's on you. I think in Tahoe we always had a group of people that sort of worked underneath the general population from home. And were working in industries where they were making incomes outside of tourism that were pretty substantial, whether they were songwriters or whether they were coders, but it was 1 or 2 here or there. This is in South Lake. We had a few companies that were more high-tech in nature, but not meaning to shine any shoes here, but when Mountain Lab came in about 4 or 5 years ago, things started to change. People's eyes who normally don't get to see incubators started to see something that didn't exist here before. And so, the city itself and a lot of the residents that I consider to be more aware are very appreciative of Mountain Lab coming in and putting it in a place where people could work and then go back home and then come in. And, it's very important to be able to bounce ideas off of people and to have that camaraderie that you get from a startup or from a company that you don't necessarily get when you work alone. And although, a lot of coders would like to sit in front of a screen for 24 hours straight or 3 days like they used to do in Microsoft, it's nice to be able to get up once in a while and talk to somebody intelligent about whatever you want to talk about. So we do appreciate what you've done, and thank you to you and David and to Bernard and Christy for starting Mountain Lab. Around the lake, we now have incubators over in Incline Village, over in Truckee, and someone told me the other day that something may start in Tahoe City too. So we're starting to see a little bit of a trend, and from a local viewpoint, tourism has been our bread and butter forever and ever and ever. Then we started talking about diversifying our economy through recreation. And so, more bike trails, more bike parks, better ski opportunities, all the things that come along with recreation. But I think we all realize that's not going to pay the bills either over the long run. So seeing people come in who want that balance in their life, they no longer want the San Francisco experience, the Boston experience. They want to be able to do what we have to offer here, which is instant access to the outdoors. Whether you're in Mountain Lab or whether you're living anywhere in town, you can walk out your front door, you can get on your mountain bike, you can get out your hiking sticks, you can get your skis, you can get your stand-up paddle, and literally you don't have to go more than 5 miles to get to any of that. And there's no traffic, you don't need to get on the subway, you don't need to take a bus, it's right there. And for entrepreneurs that want that mix and lifestyle we have something that there aren't many places in the United States have to offer. Think of all the people that work in Chicago or in Boston. They work 50 weeks out of the year to do for 2 weeks what we can do every single day here. And that's a big deal.
No, I definitely agree with that. One of the things that was also touched on is again that we're not Boston, we're not Chicago, we're not the Bay Area. Sacramento and Reno and Tahoe being kind of stuck in between as the resort community in between. We are often compared, and I think everywhere is compared to Silicon Valley when you talk about entrepreneurship. It's a natural comparison. So what do you guys think are some of the strengths that we have? And do we see a trend of entrepreneurs and innovators popping up in these secondary and tertiary markets that didn't necessarily feel like they could do that before? And how are we going to leverage that even more than we do now?
Well, if I can just start with a preface to the answer that I see, one of my key functions in life when I first moved back to California and into Sacramento was to stop the local comparisons between us and the most innovative, market, dynamic, fast-growing markets in the world. And I think we have this double-edged sword that is the proximity to the Bay Area. On one side, of course, being able to get to Sand Hill Road, where you have something like 75% of the world's VC is like 2.5 hours away from your house, is an advantage. Having access to really large VC funds and angel funds, or even a mentor group of bootstrap, if you're going to bootstrap, that's a huge plus for us here. But I think also the negativity is I'm not really ever going to push for something great because we'll never be San Francisco. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I heard Sacramento's never going to be San Francisco, and nowhere's going to be San Francisco. I mean, San Francisco is one of the top 5 global cities in the world, and frankly, spending as much time as I do, every time I go there, I think I want to be less and less like San Francisco every single time I visit. My sister's got a great shop of someone fertilizing one of the potted plants on the middle of California and Market Street, and I'm like, I don't want to live in an environment quite like that. So then my first thought is I hope we don't do that, because that's something that I tell everybody that I work with is don't look at San Francisco as some pedestal gold standard thing that we need to mirror those kinds of, because I don't think we need to, because I think we do have a way to leverage that without being that. And I think one of the things we're doing in Sacramento a lot, and I think with Mountain Labs we're really excited to first meet David and team, and Sacramento has had a lot more of these accelerator programs, and really co-working space is a great example because it's one of the, we'll talk a little bit more about challenges later, but one of the biggest benefits I have is I now have 6 to 10 times the amount of co-working spaces in Sacramento as a region than I did 5 years ago, which is a huge advantage. I mean, not everybody wants to start in a garage, and not everybody wants to start in 6 different cafes where they're on the phones and they're trying in a busy place to kind of Skype or kind of iChat or do any of those kinds of things. They want to be in one place, and then they want to be able to be in, like you were mentioning, it's not necessarily the size of the larger pool, it's how close you are, and getting into places where you have those types of environments like co-working spaces, I think are extremely vital to a younger ecosystem where you can really find each other easily. I think that's part of what's grown ours. So that's I think the way that we can start leveraging that is understanding proximity is a huge benefit, because we do have all of these San Francisco mentors. We just did a 3-month outreach program. It did 2 or 3 different things for us. Obviously, part of our goal as an organization is to bring new companies into the Sacramento region, the 6-county region, including South Lake Tahoe. That is one of our goals. But also to improve the ecosystem. We want to know what we need to do to improve the ecosystem. The right thing. I'm not an entrepreneur. I've been in regional economic development for almost 20 years. So I've never started, in that I've started companies, it's been regional economic development. So I get some of it. But there are mentors out there. And our outreach program was to a couple of hundred companies that were in the first 3 or 4 rounds of funding. We got some that were further along, had maybe $10 to $40 million of revenue, so they'd grown significantly. And they are absolutely willing to take a half an hour to an hour of their time to sit down and talk to somebody who's doing something even vaguely close to what they've tried to accomplish over it. I'm sure you've done the same thing. Is that coach peer environment that you've done over this last weekend, that is imminently possible out of our region, much more so than when I've done this other places. Like I've done it in Phoenix, I've done it in Flagstaff, and I've done it in Sierra Vista and Douglas. You don't reach out and have an hour and, hey, I'm going to stop by an hour and a half and find 5 folks to go see, to talk to them about my minimally viable product that I'm going to try to get to market. That's a really huge capability that we have, and we don't need to be them to access them. We can just reach out because it's not that far.
Ali, do you want to touch on kind of your experience in leveraging that kind of that quality and that closeness and proximity of the mentors? And you definitely now serve as a mentor yourself, but as you were starting up and going through that and learning that process, like what was it like trying to find those people, and did you find them in Reno? The proximity to the Bay Area really helped that process, and what was it like?
Yeah, totally. So I had always been obstinate as a founder. So I was mentioning this earlier, we were just talking 6 failed startups before this one. So I'm a poster child of what not to do when it comes to startups. And I'm happy to brag about all of the mistakes I made because they are important. They are, you learn, it's the old Edison comment, attributed to him, whether or not it's him. You learned another way not to do it, right? I can tell you the reason why I chose the wrong co-founder, why that one failed. Another one was I had no sales team. Another one failed. A third one was that I didn't consider capital as a resource, and so you run out of money literally. Each one of them has a story, and so I had learned the hard way that a network, people that you get to know, is essential to building a company because it's dealing with people at the end of the day, and people are. Even the biggest companies we work with, the industrial companies, these Fortune 500s, in some cases Fortune 50s, right? 50 largest companies in the world, still run by people. People who still like to have relationships with each other, who like to call each other on the phone once in a while and just have coffee one chance. That is essential, and I always disregarded that because I was like, I can just write some code and make this thing happen. And that's part of it also, but it's not enough. And so absolutely the network piece matters. And I first learned that again through the TechStars program. Living in Reno and trying to do startups, hit a lot of roadblocks over the last, I've been doing this 21 years now. So, gosh, lots of mistakes. But once I learned the power of a network, and the TechStars network, not to, promote them too much, but it was the first point.
Okay.
It's okay. I'm in the right spot for it. It really is absolutely essential. They taught me the power of that network, and they even proclaim it a lot, and they talk about themselves. But it's true because I was able to call on that network. So a quick story, I had joined a company who had just got into the TechStars program, but I joined them as a CTO, and I joined them a week before they were accepted into the program. So we didn't know, and it was super awkward because I was just looking for a job because my previous company had failed, and I was looking to save some money, and I would do a startup and then go work for someone, save money, do a startup, spend all the money, go back and save up my money again. And so we got in the TechStars program. It was amazing. But what happened is that company failed, even as a TechStars company. But I was able to leverage the network and talk to some of the people, including David Cohen, who's the CEO of TechStars, and just kept him up to date on what I was doing. Now, of course, how many people email David Cohen? Everybody does, right? So he has to be very militant with his email, but I would just give him regular updates because they taught us this. Stay connected to your network. Hey, I'm doing something else. Hey, I'm doing something else. Now I'm doing this hardware thing called Filament. It was a different name back then. He reaches out to me and he's like, well, keep me posted. I'm interested in this new thing, hardware that's happening. This is around 2012. Not a lot of investment in hardware back then. IoT wasn't called IoT, it was called connected devices. And I had kept sending these email updates. And out of it came, I had a friend and family invest a small amount because we did a crowdfunding campaign, we were successful. And so we decided, let's do a seed round of funding. And so had one person commit, and so I sent my email message out to all of my network, right? David was in it. And he writes back in like 10 minutes, hey, like I'm in also. And I was like, wait, what? Like how? I didn't even pitch him. Not that it was so amazing, it's just that I maintained and curated that network and I kept it. You treat it like a thing, a living thing. And so of course, once you have David in your ground, it's a lot easier to go and raise others. So I asked him if I could use his name. Do I have your commitment? Because there's kind of a protocol you use. and got the clear, and then started, building the company. And it's super important. I really want to set the point home. It's not that the idea was amazing or that I'm amazing. I mean, I had been in another company he had invested in through Techstars that failed, right? It's not like I'm amazing or have it all put together. It's that I maintained that communication with him. And so we leveraged that heavily from that point on. Not him so much, but the network. And so we kept building upon that, and being in close proximity to the Bay Area, it's an advantage. I could take phone calls, or I would send out a bunch of emails and subsequent rounds of funding to build up, meetings to pitch investors. And, it was about 10-to-1 ratio. For every 10 meetings I had, 9 said no, 1 said maybe. And the maybes was another probably 1 to 5, from a maybe to a yes. So this is just a grind. You're just like, every week, you're like, I gotta get through my nose because I want to get to the yeses. And but being so close to the Bay Area, someone would be like, hey, can you be here for coffee tomorrow morning? And the answer is yeah. Like, I'll either get in the car and drive over the summit, as long as it wasn't winter, or it's a 38-minute flight from Reno to Oakland Airport, and then you take BART in. So it's almost like you could pretend to be in the Bay Area, take all advantage of it, whereas all the capital, or a lot of the capital is, and still build your company in the environment and the community that you like, which is the one that is your friends and your family and your house and your kids, perhaps. There is no reason whatsoever that you can't build it in a place like this now. It's not 1971 when Intel had to build their chip factory in southern, South Bay, San Jose, and all of the other people were there, and you had to be there physically. We have the internet, we have a peer.in, you have all these tools now, and it's very easy to be able to pull it off. So I am now shameless about exploiting anything I can to use to get to where I need to go. And there is a benefit of being physically close, 2-hour drive, that is absolutely should be used if you decide to go to that venture route.
Austin, do you want to touch on how we can kind of shamelessly exploit the fact that we're not only close to the Bay Area, but also close to the great networks in Reno and Sacramento, and how we can use that to our advantage here?
Yeah, South Lake Tahoe doesn't have a economic development individual going out there chasing down companies to move to Tahoe. We also don't have a big budget.
We actually do now, technically.
Welcome to the team. We also don't have a big budget to advertise, all of our great high-tech centers that we may have one day. So I think the one thing that we do leverage pretty well is what we learned from the tourism industry, and what we leverage is buzz. And in the tourism industry, whichever destination has the hottest buzz, whether that's the most snow last year, or the most new terrain that opens up, or the most new bike parks, whatever it may be, that's what gets people to go from what their usual destination is to a different destination. They want to go where the buzz is. So when you start to look at what the buzz is for South Lake Tahoe, it's all the entrepreneurs that have come here because they want the quality of life that we have to offer, and then they become successful. So whether it's Mountain Lab or Corey Rich or Chris McNamara or Sean Kearns, whoever it may be, they're out there spreading the word about the buzz going on in Tahoe, that you can live here, you can be very successful, you can network, you can be in San Francisco or Sacramento in 2 to 4 hours, depending upon traffic. You can get to Reno in 1 hour. And from Reno, you can fly anywhere in the world because we've got the greatest little airport in the world. So we leverage all of that, and all of that buzz happens organically. We're not going to go out there and take an ad in Forbes magazine that says, guess what? We're not Tesla. But because Tesla's right there in our backyard, and a lot of those executives will end up here because Switch is down there, and a lot of their executives will come up here to get out of the heat. And as Sacramento booms, we know that their executives are going to buy homes up here to get out of the heat. So all of a sudden, all of this organic buzz starts to happen on its own. And you couple with that, for young people, events like Snow Globe, where American Express said it's one of the top 5 events in the United States in December. And you leverage what's going on in our school system with all the renovations and the new programs going on in our public schools, and now Lake Tahoe Community College associating itself with a 4-year degree program. Those things start appealing to people that may be more in the single category. And the schools and all of the family access and recreational access certainly applies to the singles, but it also applies to the families. And Tahoe right now is hot. There's a buzz going on here because we are starting to see the entrepreneurs move here, and people want to get in and be part of this because you're going to leave here and go, wow, wouldn't it be cool if I could live here and make a more than six-figure salary and maybe even take a company public and get to ski every day and get to ride my mountain bike like I think David Orr does like 6 days out of the week, right? His lunch break is a 2-hour ride up to Star Lake. So that's pretty cool when you can go up to 10,000 feet in a matter of hours and then come back and get your work done for the rest of the day. So that's what we try to leverage, and I think it's going to happen organically, and we're going to be successful. And for those of you that haven't found your new home, now's the time.
I like it. That was a good pitch. It's like you've done this before.
Shamelessly.
All right, so let's shift over to the challenges, because I think we do have a lot of amazing things going on, across our entire region. So what are going to be some of the challenges that we're experiencing now, and also maybe that we're going to be challenged with in the future in terms of continuing this momentum?
Well, I think one of the two of the biggest, well, there's probably three. So for me, and I know that extends to South Lake Tahoe as well, it's finding space. It's finding space fast. I've not met an entrepreneur, startup company that had an extra 6 months to 9 months to find a building to have some space get ready for them while they just kind of sit and hang out and wait for space to grow. I mean, that's just like death knolls ringing for them. We had a client that came up about a year and a half ago, and we toured 9 different spaces. The fastest any of them were going to be ready was in 90 to 120 days. And we never heard from them again because in 90 to 120 days, they're going, man, that's a quarter. If I don't have this scaled and launched, I don't have 30 new employees working wherever the heck I can find space for them to get the sales up, to get the revenue model the way the VCs want me to meet, I'm not going to be able to make this happen. So space is critical. Finding, creating the right types of space, and for us across the entire region, it's finding 500 to 1,000 square feet. It's not finding 10,000 square feet of ready to go office space, or 20 or 30 or 100. I need that for some of the bigger clients we're working with. I need to have 150,000 square feet of ready to go office space that's going to take 60 days to get into. But for the entrepreneurs, for the startup, it's again why that co-working has been so important for us. So finding the right kind of space, making sure that the communities are thinking about that kind of space, understanding that I may have a company up here that's going to create an R&D lab for a major food processing company that's looking to create a new enzyme, and they want 1,200 square feet, like max. And to think that's all they want for a company that has 32,000 employees globally, that little space that I need to have it, and I need to have it now. So I work with a lot of my communities and developers on how do I get that space. So one, space. Two, it's still people. I mean, we talked a little bit about this networking and being able to get to people, but these startups that we've reached out to that were willing to spend a half an hour with us, we've got about 40 or 50 over the last 3 months. I can't tell you how many times I've heard, and we'll publish this ebook, by the way. So if you guys want to have this ebook, I'm happy to share that with you. So it's tricks and tips to scale and grow in 2017 from about 50 different startup companies, just past A rounds or B and C, but not really still established. And it's get the right person, get the right people in. I mean, and we heard, you get the wrong CEO, you're dead. You get the wrong CTO, you're dead. You get the wrong salesperson, you're dead. So getting the right people, and that's going to be critical. So finding the right mass of people. Now, the nice thing about where Sacramento as a region, including here, sits is I think it's pretty easy to be able to say, unlike when I was in Arizona, hey, how'd you like to move to Phoenix? Not quite as much. I'd like to move to Tahoe. Yeah, I'd do Tahoe. I think it's a little bit easier than, hey, Douglas, on the border of Mexico and Arizona, I'd like to come out there and be my CTO. Nope, I don't know that I want to bring my wife and kids or family there. I don't think so. So I think we have the attractability. So I think we can find, and again, that's why proximity to the Bay Area is so nice. You can find the right people, but I think that's a key challenge that I don't know that we have, because that takes scale. That's not just how close you are, that's how big you are. How many times you can find the right people as you grow that extra company. You need to be able to bring people, and I think we can. I just don't know that it's all there. And I still think, as close as we are, we still hear, I would like to invest in that company, but I'd like them to consider an East Bay location. from a VC perspective, and that so I still hear it's would be vital to get more and more angel and startup and be able to get some of that money locally. Although I think that's less of a challenge than it was when we were in Arizona. I think I lost more and more companies because they met with VCs. It was a great idea. The people were right. And the VC says, that's fantastic. I'd like you to move to San Francisco. I'd like you to come and do that. And I don't know that they're doing that quite as much anymore, but I think it's easier to get up in front of them when they're local. And thankfully, the region now has folks like Vivek Ranadive that have really adopted Sacramento and the region for money. He's creating a large fund. There's the owner of the MLS and a co-owner of the Kings. He's creating another large fund. So we probably have about $200 to $300 million in new VC money funds that are being created in the region that weren't there 2 years ago. So, but I think the momentum is still the challenge there. Once money gets placed here, grows here, placed locally, we'll be able to build on that flywheel idea a little bit more that we don't have quite down yet as a region.
Allison, are you seeing some of the same things in Reno, and as an entrepreneur that's going through this right now and just raised around? And
yeah. I mean, John's right. There's the founder who usually says, it's hard to find access to capital, to find the investors. Investors say it's hard to find deal flow, which is, right, companies to invest in. So there's this kind of chicken egg thing that happens, pretty common. It happens in Reno a lot. It's changing. I think he's right. Like there's a lot of new capital available in Reno, specifically in the angel area, not so much an A, B round, which seem to be larger. They're larger and seem to be different personalities of investors at those rounds, but there are increasingly large number, and in fact, a lot of them live up here, here or incline. They're usually Tahoe based. They usually came from the Bay Area, and they are driving down, Mount Rose Highway to come talk to Reno startups. So that's a really good trend that we're seeing. For us, the biggest struggle, the biggest challenge in being where we're at, and Reno is pretty small, right? Reno and Tahoe are a little bit different than Sacramento. We're not quite as lucky to have the size of Sacramento. Is finding talent, right? So when you need to, the flip side of saying, hey, here's a round of funding is now grow your company extremely quickly, almost cancerous-like, and how fast you are expected to grow. And anyone who's worked in companies that have grown fast, it's very, very difficult because it changes culture so quickly, and you hope you don't make that mistake of hiring the wrong person at the wrong time. Or maybe you hired the right person at the wrong time. They would be great in 2 years, but horrible today. People always say there's 4 or 5 different types of VP of sales. There's the when you have zero revenue, there's the up to $1 million revenue, and then there's the 100 million, then there's the billion. And they're different skills, and they're different people often. And so if you hire that later one early or the early one late, you can really mess yourself up. So finding that talent is difficult. Luckily, it's becoming much easier every week to pull people from the Bay Area. In fact, people are moving to Reno, at least, I'm sure here as well, and in Sacramento, just wanting to get away from it all. The housing market is so ridiculous and the traffic is so ridiculous that while a lot of them still do work for these great startups who are in the city or in the valley, they more of them want to have kids, want to actually grow a family, exactly like what you did, move away and get back to what matters in life while still being involved in exciting startups. We just hired a product manager who lived in Austin, then lived in Denver, and then moved to Reno because his girlfriend, his partner, got a job as a professor at UNR. And so he was just looking around like what's available. And so we had 3 or 4 different lunches. I interview over lunch because I like to eat. And so we end up just, chatting and talking about whatever. And worked out to be a great talent who just moved in for whatever reason, personal reasons. His partner turns out to be a fantastic product manager. And so we take him whenever we can. But it is hard. It's still the hardest thing. And I don't know, short of going and finding those people, how to do it. We kind of broke a rule a little bit in that we opened up multiple offices. So it works, but it's also difficult in its own way because you have communication issues, people in different locations. Our investors don't particularly like that we have 4 offices rather than 1. They prefer we had 1 in the Bay Area. They would secondarily prefer 1 somewhere else. And then we have multiples elsewhere. We have San Francisco now, a small one, Reno, Denver, and St. Paul, Minnesota. And so, they don't love that because it doesn't look good from an acquisition standpoint to try to buy 4 different, 4 different offices and people everywhere. So we kind of find the best people through that way. I'm not sure it works for everyone, but it works for us while being in small Reno and still finding really talented folks.
So how do we make this work in South Lake Austin? Because I think we have the pitch, because you definitely have been working on that. We've got the quality of life. So how do we kind of grab talent where we can, and again leverage what we're seeing in these other areas? Like what is our main challenge here, other than the fact that we have to pick which line to take on a powder day?
That is the toughest decision, which ski to pull out of the quiver. Um, Before I talk about the challenges, which I think I have about four, I think we also need to acknowledge that Tahoe is never going to have a problem with space for large companies. We're just not going to have companies come here where there's going to be 250 employees. Maybe 100 would be as big as we could probably accommodate. But for the most part, we do have space available for small startups. I think there's a great opportunity for every type of startup, but we would love to see startups that focused in outdoor recreation, because that's right here in your backyard. So whether it's product testing or whether it's being able to go out there and live the product, so to speak, and then go ahead and market it, you can do that here. So I'm very interested in people like Chris McNamara, who's got the Outdoor Gear Lab, and Corey Rich, who's a world-renowned photographer. Bringing more companies like that here. So my pitch to you is, if you have an outdoor recreation company or a technology company, we'd love to see you here, because if we could form that as sort of a niche, one of our niches, that would be really cool. I think the challenges that we have here, probably just like everywhere in California, it's housing. Finding enough workforce housing to satisfy the different income levels, everything from whether you work for a startup and you make $45,000-$50,000 a year, or whether you own the startup and maybe making $200,000-$300,000 a year. We don't have a great abundance, so we need to work on freeing up some of our housing stock, and we're in the process of doing that. The other challenge I think we face is connectivity. Up in the mountains, communication sometimes can be difficult. So we need to do what we call here dig once. We need to get our fiber optic cable into the ground and not depend upon Mother Nature to sort of screw things up on a regular basis. The third thing that we have a challenge with here as a city is in keeping entrepreneurs and attracting entrepreneurs is to fix our infrastructure. And that's always an ongoing challenge because, as most of you know, cities did not accrue the money over the last 50 years to repair their bridges and the tunnels and their water lines and their streets. So we want to put the best product we can out there so that when an entrepreneur comes here, they're going, well, this is a pretty cool place. And look at all the progress they're making. And I'm very proud to say that if you've been in our town 5, 6, 7 years or been visiting for that long, I hope you've seen a significant difference in the aesthetics in this town. It looks a hell of a lot better, and we have a lot more things to offer than we did 5, 6, 7 years ago. So I think those are really the major challenges that we have. And I would say the last challenge, which hopefully will come from some of the entrepreneurs who decide to make their homes here, is leadership. We need consistency in leadership to help guide our town to make wise, smart decisions going forward. And I know it's hard for someone working a job to get involved in whether it's a planning commission or being on city council or being on the Recreation and Parks Commission, but we need new, bright, fresh minds to come here who look at the world with the glass half full and not look at the world with the glass half empty. It's a beautiful place. You wake up every day and you get to look at what we get to look at, and why you would wake up with a negative attitude is beyond me. And so we need those glass half full people to come here and to help guide our town into the future.
It's like I paid him to transition that way, because the next thing I wanted to touch on was, how do we foster the new entrepreneurs? Startup Weekend, I think I'm hoping that we've created a few new entrepreneurs that maybe didn't think of themselves as such before they did this program. But what do we do in terms of the schools and even people that maybe think that they're towards the end of the career but realize, oh no, I'm actually an entrepreneur and I want to do something new even though I just turned 60. So what do we do to create that, and also then foster the leadership around that to really create that type of thinking throughout our areas?
I think the biggest thing a community can do to help foster the idea, regardless of age, regardless of how long they've been in a community, they're a brand new transplant, they've been born and raised and lived their entire lives here, is to really showcase the success stories in your community really well, and then how the community can become a part of that endeavor. And I always advocate, when a city councilman or someone on the board of supervisors, somebody asks me, kind of what can they do? It's really dive into their local community entrepreneurial ecosystem and established ecosystem. Not just the new companies, but really diving in there, because there are a lot of these really great ideas that don't take the time out of their day jobs to really get engaged with community, whether they think of it as, I don't do community politics, I just do my job. But I think that cross-pollination between the community, the council, the board of supervisors, the districts, and that outreach into their own community is something that's really, really vital, because I think you take a series of really good ideas, whether it's a brand new program, brand new company that you as an elected official or you as just engaged in your community can say, it's that creating that network. And I think if the community itself, the city, not founders, but the city council, mayor, city staff, management can help foster that network, I think that goes a really long way to then understanding what they need to do as a community that helps these companies be really successful. Because I think oftentimes without that cross-pollination, I've never met somebody who's mayor or a city councilman, board of supervisor, that gets up in the morning and says, how am I really going to screw it up for people today? That's really, I'm here, I'm taking time, earning crap money to do this, really, I'm going to really stab these guys in the back. It's not an idea that I think I've ever heard from any of them, ever. And oftentimes, though, it's that they just don't understand all of what's happening in their community and how they might be best helpful. And I think you've got a really active mayor here, because he's here today and he's a part of these kinds of things. That's great. So going back there and fostering that with the rest of city council, and you guys fostering that outreach, because it works both directions. Know who your city councilman is, know who your board of supervisors are, know who your legislators are, know your federal, know your state, and talk to them, because they're people who don't understand what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. And if they do, that's fantastic. But I think they're more of a rarity. So getting out there and really kind of fostering that, and that's across our entire region. You have the capital of the state of California, the 6th largest economy in the world, about an hour and a half from your doorstep. So really reaching out, and we have a group, and I know I have a couple of Greater Sacramento champions in there. Thank you for participating. But we part of that outreach is to have a group of 200-300 people that we can call upon and say, hey, reach out, because this is big, this is important, this is exciting. It could be really detrimental if it goes wrong, or it could be really supportive if it goes right. And I think that's a big way of us to kind of cross-pollinate that.
Yeah, John brings up a really good point, because I think there are two things that really help foster this. So the first is that startups and founders and people who are just interested in entrepreneurism need to be around each other. It goes back to that network thing again, is that having co-working spaces is so key. That's where Filament started. I started in a spare bedroom in our house by myself, and then moved into a co-working space, the Reno Collective down in Reno. And that was, it was super exciting to move into an office. Well, it was a room that we rented from the Reno Collective, but it was a location now that we could go to, and around all of these other people who were doing their startups, and you could chat about it, and you could hey, have you had this problem? I'm having this problem, or have you heard of something, or do you know somebody that has a skill that I need? That cross-pollination, he's totally right, is absolutely essential, I believe, and that can happen anywhere. It does not have to happen in the Bay Area. It does not have to happen in Chicago or Austin or Portland or New York, though it does also happen there. It's not only there. The other piece, and I think this is actually under considered, and I'm glad John brought it up, is that startups interfacing and working alongside their legislators or their city council people, all of those folks, it's actually closer than you think. And the nice thing about this is that it's actually easier in smaller towns, right? You can actually get access to these people much more easily. Filament was presented with a problem last year. So Nevada, for those who aren't familiar, has a legislative session that happens every 2 years, and it only lasts for 4 months. And so all of our state, senators and assembly people are not career politicians. They have to go back to a job unless they only want to work 4 months every 2 years, which I don't think any of them do. So there was a law that was a draft that was proposed that looked like it was going to start to get through, and it actually affected us in a negative way. And it was about a technology we use called the blockchain, and it could have really damaged Filament's chance to grow because we built a lot of our business model around this capability. So, learning how the legislative process worked, working with a really good firm that knew how to operate and work with legislators, helped us to have a hand in redrafting that and getting it through. And it turned out it's really easy to testify before your state senate. You just sign a piece of paper and you go there. And I think you could even, you have access to all of them right there. In fact, you can run into them in the hallways afterwards, and you can have the discussions. They want to know what's on your mind as an entrepreneur, as a founder. They want to help. They really do. And it's not that they're actively trying to damage anything. They just simply don't know. They're being pummeled with something like, I forget the number, but it's like thousands of draft legislative laws in 4 months. And so they sometimes get an hour to think about a thing before voting on it. It's part of our job, I think, as entrepreneurs to educate them in a time appropriate and location appropriate manner to say, hey, this is really important to me and what I'm trying to do, and we're here, we're in this town. Can you help us? Or how can we help get this so that it is advantageous for us to continue to grow the economic capability in this area? It completely blew my mind about how much easier it was to get access to those people than I thought it was. I thought it was a barrier and that you can't get in there and it's very opaque. And so I highly encourage, he's absolutely right, get to know your council people, get to know your city planners. Like, they're there and they want to hear from you. In fact, they're quite excited oftentimes to talk to startups and to people even doing anything in the entrepreneurial community, because it's such a refreshing optimism, sometimes idealism, that they don't always hear from. They hear from a lot of grumpy people. And so it's nice to be there, a different voice for once.
And I have to say, remember, this is Austin Sass. He's the mayor of South Lake Tahoe. So if you're a South Lake Tahoe resident, he'll probably give you his phone number.
Don't do it in a grumpy way. I mean that as before I pass it over to your mayor. Encourage them and inform them on what you're doing and what's important. Coming out to just complain doesn't work unless it does. Maybe you can tell us straight complaints work, but I've always found that in just the educational outreach component is great.
So when it comes to fostering entrepreneurship, I sort of go back to what I said earlier. When people decide that they are going to leave what was their place of residence, or whether you come from Ames, Iowa, and it didn't have enough for you, or whether you come from Cheyenne, Wyoming, and didn't have enough, or whether San Francisco had too much of what you wanted. When you come to a place like Lake Tahoe, what defines you as a local, and that's a big deal in this town, is being called a local. And some people will say you have to be here 20 years to be a local. Other people say you need to be here 2 years to be a local. The God's honest truth, the second that you say that this is my home, you are a local. And that's what it's about, because you've decided that this is home. And that is one of the most important things and decisions you'll ever make in your life. And so it's your home, you're here now, you want to be part of the community, it's your place, and we're small enough that, trust me, you will know the whole town pretty quick. So what I can do is provide you access. Now that this is your home, you want to know what's going on with our cannabis regulations, what's going on at the new building on the corner of Ski Run Boulevard. When are you going to get the connectivity done? Why aren't our roads better? And so if you decide to be in public office, be a public servant, and get paid $950 a month, you're not doing it to get wealthy. You're doing it because you want what is in the best interest of your community. And so I try to put myself out there. I make myself accessible to almost anybody in this town, as long as they don't start off with a lot of negativity, because I just don't buy into that. And I also hope that through that process, to get other entrepreneurs to come here, that we create evangelists. I want everybody who lives in our town to be an evangelist for how great a town we have, and how awesome it is to be able to drive 5 miles to get from one end of the city to the other, and not sit in traffic for 4 hours waiting to get 2 miles over a bridge. And so whatever I can provide to you as far as information that makes you feel better about your future home or your current home, that's the way I view my job. And I hope that all elected officials put themselves out there, because as you both have said, it is a big deal to be able to reach out to your local officials and sit down with them for an hour or 2 hours or even 10 minutes if that's what the cup of coffee takes.
All right, and then because I know that our teams are probably getting super antsy to get their pitches up and running, I'm going to throw a slight curveball because this is sometimes a hard question. In one succinct point, what is your best advice for people that are just jumping into entrepreneurship in our region?
Oh, I haven't. Yeah. So I saw the question when it was sent out, and honestly, not having started with a brand new idea from scratch before, but having then talked to a bunch of entrepreneurs. I mean, one of the things that, and I think we've talked about it a lot, so I hate to kind of continue to really go down this path, but you are in South Lake Tahoe in really, really close proximity to probably the largest pool of people who have failed more times than you'll come up with an idea to fail with, to be able to use them. And I've been absolutely blown away with people who are really trying to get a company off the ground, go from $1 million to $10 million in revenue. They're really pushing hard. That will take a half an hour with me. And I'm not offering them anything other than a quote and an ebook I'm going to publish in 6 months from now. So I wasn't offering anything, but if you were to tell unknown groups of people a couple of ideas of how to do it the best, what do you think? And every single one of them that I've talked to have been willing to spend a half an hour with me and to tell them how they failed, how they succeeded. So if you have that idea, you can find, whether it's through me or your city or the Mountain Labs or other entrepreneurs that you meet, if you don't know those people to ask, there are ways for you to find those people to ask questions, and they will help you figure that out. And I think that is part of this entrepreneurial spirit that makes everything so successful, is you can find others that are willing to say, here's what I did, and I failed twice doing it like this, and I succeeded this one time, and I'm going to try it a different way this fifth time, and I don't know, but here's what I do. I think that's probably my best example, is reach out, find somebody who's done something similar, whether it's the similar finance structure or the right idea or the same technology, and ask them how they failed, and they will tell you, and you'll be able to learn from their mistakes as much as you can learn from yours.
This is a really good question. Mine isn't necessarily tied to the region, but it does absolutely apply everywhere. And it's a little cliche, but bear with me. Founders or entrepreneurs who they start with an idea, it is absolutely essential that the only thing you need to make that idea, the only thing you need to succeed, I should say, is to persist. Like, you're not the smartest, you're not the richest, it's not I live in the wrong area, in the wrong city, so I'm not going to make it. There's a subtle distinction a lot of new or early entrepreneurs that make, and I made it myself, which is you fall in love with your idea so much that you will not budge on it. What you should fall in love with is solving problems, is solving the correct problem, the right problem at the right time. You might be 98% there on your idea, and you're like, it's so close, but it's not quite. And if you just adjusted it a little bit, you'll just fall into this huge opportunity, and you are almost there. So it's a subtle distinction, but it's super key. And I made this mistake a couple times in my past where I thought for sure I knew, because entrepreneurs can be quite feisty and opinionated, because that's what makes us us. But at the same time, be loose enough to start to really push through, and just simply don't give up. There's been several situations, even with Filament, where I woke up one morning, it's like, is this it? Like, should we just call it? That's a sobering situation, but at the same time, you decide, no, we're going to make it through. We had one moment where we had 8 days of money left, and we had 6 employees. One of them had like a 2-month-old child, and it was just terrifying. But at the same time, we as a company, very transparent. We were sharing this the whole time, letting everyone know, hey, it's not looking good. If you need me to write like letters of recommendation for you all, if you're looking for the jobs, I'll totally do it. These are sobering discussions to have with your team. Everyone's stuck in there. They're like, nope, let's see this to the end. If we have 8 days left, something might happen, and something did happen. Like an investment came in at the very last minute, very terrible terms because they knew we were under the gun, but we were able to live to fight another day. And so, had we just folded up and been like, this is too much pressure, forget it, we wouldn't be here. And so, I use that as an example because a lot of founders will fall into this trap of like, I've got this idea and it's worth a lot, and et cetera, et cetera. Just don't stop moving forward and you'll get there. It might not look like what you think. We were supposed to be a home automation gardening product when we started. And now we're working, with big, huge companies. You think you have an idea. You think there's something there. There's a there, but you have to adjust. And we've adjusted a lot. But it really is the thing that's carried me through the whole time. And everyone I've talked to who I use as mentors have said something similar. And I think it's a truth or a truism now, at least in my own life.
Well said. I've been part of 6 startups, 2 where there was substantial personal upside, and 4 where I was sort of a role player. One was a home run and one was a strikeout. And I will tell you that being part of a startup is a special, special opportunity. Not many people get to do it. Not many people are willing to put their butts on the line and roll the dice and go broke and start again and go broke and start again and go broke. So it is special, it is unique, and because it's so pressure-packed, because it's so time-consuming, the best advice I could give to an entrepreneur is to surround yourself with a team that you absolutely love being with. And that includes your VC or your angel as well. You will spend so many hours getting this company off the ground that you better really adore the people that you're going to be spending all of that time with, because it's, as you all know, it's a lot of hours, it's a lot of pressure, it's a lot of communication, and the second you throw somebody into the equation that doesn't quite fit in, things can go south really, really quick. And again, that could be the VC, that could be the angel, or it could be members of your team. So surround yourself with people not only that are bright, intelligent, passionate, willing to work hard, but people that you really like and like being with.
Great. Can you please give me a nice warm thank you to all of these panelists?
All right, welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. How about that panel, huh? Oh, that was great. A lot of great insight. That was awesome. So, guys, we're getting to that point of the night, that final countdown like we've been talking about. It's here. It's here. Who's ready to pitch? So, just to give a little quick background for anybody at home or anybody that hasn't been to a startup weekend, you're here checking this out for the first time. We started on Friday night with an idea, with a pitch, with 20 pitches of individuals coming in, having met most of the people in the room before and saying, I got an idea, here's what we should do. I think we should build this product. It doesn't exist right now, let's do it. And over 54 hours, they've taken that from idea to what you're going to see tonight, and I know you're going to be impressed. Startup Weekend, just so you know, is not just here, not just in South Lake Tahoe, but is happening all over the world. There are over 350,000 alumni that you guys are now joining. How exciting is that? Great. Over 12,000 organizers. There's been over 4,500 events, Startup Weekend events that have happened in over 150 countries around the world. This is what's happening over the next 2 weeks. Startup Weekend is going on all over the place, and you guys are part of this, part of making this happen. What we've been doing over this weekend, not only just starting businesses, but learning by doing. I've been your MC and the guy throwing you in the fire all weekend. It's been about validating an idea, learning a new skill, meeting a new co-founder, building a team, and just, in general, having fun. It's been a great time, hasn't it? Come on. So my hope is that some of the teams that pitch tonight, we got 5 teams that are pitching tonight, are going to join some of these success stories right here. LaunchRock, Zapier, Hydrate. These are companies that have grown tremendously, and they all started right at a startup weekend, just like this. Just to give you a little idea of what the winners get out of this, it's not about the prizes, but the prizes are part of what's going to help whoever wins here on to the next level. We've got first place. Not only do you get this lovely gold trophy over here, but you also have 3 months at Startup NV. Do you guys know what this 3 months at Startup NV, which is an incubator all focused on Nevada startups, Nevada businesses. It's going to have the mentorship, the access to resources, potential funding sources to take you to the next level. On top of that, 3 months of co-working at Tahoe Mountain Labs. Tahoe Mountain Labs, thank you guys. Startup NV, thank you guys. This is awesome. Thank you for providing these tools to whoever's going to win here tonight. Also, 1 year of Buzz Tools. This is just social media. It's going to help you get the word out about your product and your business. $85 of Larker. You're going to make sure anytime you've got an issue, mental health issues, you're going to work through it. They're going to help you out. But guys, great line of prizes. More importantly, great group of teams that are pitching here tonight. And allow me to now introduce the judges that are going to decide your fate. Ashley?
Okay. Hi. Do I just say something? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Sorry, Ashley, can you just give us a little bit of your background?
Oh, hi guys. I started off. I went to school for psychology. Ended up getting married to a coder, and then ended up getting to the startup scene and fell in love with it. Probably like many of you guys. And I had an incubator slash accelerator in Reno called Girl Made, and it's still going. It's under new ownership, but it's still going. The Brecky for Bosses is under that same umbrella. Then I started a company called Parlor Shows, which is like the Airbnb of house concerts. And I've done several things. I did some lean startup methodology coaching for different startups, and now I'm in the government affairs space doing blockchain legislation. So thanks for having me.
All right, thanks, Ashley. Jeff.
Hi, I'm Jeff Sailing. I've been through a few startups myself, three in Silicon Valley that eventually IPO'd, and a couple that are still on the burner right now, including Startup NV that you heard about a little bit earlier. So super excited to be here.
All right, thank you, Jeff. Glad to have you. And finally, our third judge, Jen.
Hey everyone, I'm Jen Grecki. I'm the CEO of Coalition Snow. We make women's skis and snowboards that don't suck. So with everyone living startup life, which is that roller coaster of ups and downs. And then I've also done some things over in Africa with social enterprise in Kenya that funds livelihoods for women. So been doing this for a while. Thanks for having me.
All right. Hey, what a great group of judges. Judges, thank you for being here. Now, the criteria that all these teams are going to be judged based upon, you've seen these all weekend long: validation, execution and design, and business model. What have you created over the course of the weekend? That's your execution and design. What have you validated? Have you talked to customers? Have you figured out if people really want the product, and what is that idea that you're focusing around? Business model, we all know that a product by itself is not a business. What business model are you turning this into? How are you monetizing it? How is it going to become not just a business of tomorrow, but the business down the line of millions and billions of dollars? So this is how it works tonight. We've got 5 teams pitching, 5 minutes apiece, Q&A of 5 minutes thereafter. There's a timer in the front row right here. He's going to give you he's going to give you, you're going to see on the screen there, it's counting down for 5 minutes. You have, again, 5 minutes pitch, 5 minutes Q&A. As soon as that is done, crowd, please help me out, just like we've done all weekend long. When we get to that 5-minute mark, you're going to be the most enthusiastic crowd, clapping as hard as you can, letting them know that time is up and that you appreciated their pitch. So without further ado, here's the pitching lineup. We've got Every Minute Counts, Ride or Drive, BFF Bars, Boats and Snows, and Snow Go Now. All right, let's hear it for Every Minute Counts.
As a health coach, I work with a lot of individuals. And one of the biggest things that I see from these individuals is stress. The level of stress that they walk in to me with is so high that it's a huge barrier for any of the healthy things that they want to start doing. It really struck me one night when I was working with one of my clients. She had had a busy day at work, worked almost a 12-hour day, and didn't even get to leave for lunch because all the meetings were scheduled through lunch and a very unhealthy lunch was brought in. So she came to me, stressed, didn't accomplish any of her goals for that day. One idea that popped into my head to help her with her stress was that each time when she went to the bathroom, take an extra minute, sit on the toilet, and just breathe. That it really could be that easy just to take 1 minute. So with this idea, Every Minute Counts was born. It's a wellness tool that jumpstarts healthy habits by reminding you every hour to disconnect from the task that you're doing just for 1 minute. The problem is stress, but it leads to all these other side effects that we're feeling. We surveyed almost 100 people this weekend, and 31% of them said that when they feel stressed, they're not able to focus and accomplish their tasks, and that most of them will just walk away and often pick something really unhealthy to make them feel better. So with this app, it has to be simple. That's the whole point, is that 1 minute of your time every hour is going to give you that reset. With this app, it's easy to download and easy to start. You literally just have to push one button. You're able to choose what time you want to start getting your alerts and what time they're going to stop. You have 4 options of what you're going to do during your 1 minute. You can just sit and quietly breathe. You can have a guided breathing exercise. You can listen to binaural beats that help reset your brain, or you can get up and move. We had a really cool experience with this last night. We put this into practice through our working together this weekend, and we would stop and take our 1 minute. Last night we decided we needed to move, so we did jumping jacks. Next thing we knew, at about 10 seconds in, we looked over and the team next to us got up and came and joined us. So it's infectious. People lead by example and see what you're doing. Once you're done with your minute, you can log how you are feeling after and take any other notes that you want to look back at in the future, because you're going to be able to see a log. See how many minutes you're able to do each day, and also see the correlation of how that makes you feel. This will start with a freemium model so that there's no barrier to entry. We want this to be so simple that anybody that hears about it or is recommended to it can download it and do 1 minute immediately. As a health coach, I can see the value. And other health coaches, wellness professionals will too. So an affiliate model where they get a small kickback for recommending people is going to be a big part of our marketing strategy. There will also be upgrades so that people can get more knowledge, more guided breathing, more options of what to do during their time. This is not another meditation app. It takes it much further. It's simple, it's 1 minute, there's tracking, and you can move on with your day. In the future platforms, we would like to have an online integration so that coaches can monitor their clients. Every minute counts because we can make a difference in 1 minute. We give you the minute, and it's your choice what to do with it. Thank you.
Great idea, great pitch, well done. So a couple questions on the business model and app fatigue, right? One of the toughest things nowadays when you're building a new app, like so many people are, is people don't want to download apps anymore. I mean, it's really, really hard to get someone to stop and download your app. So how do you plan on doing that? And then once they have, how do they pay you? What do they pay you?
Right. So a big part of that, and I'm going to give you a tidbit and then let anybody else step in as well, is with the marketing, having coaches we checked into, like Barton Hospital has programs for their employees where there would be an incentive from the employer for wellness programs to stick with it. So that's part of the model of getting people to stick with it. And they're downloading it as a recommendation because they're getting a bigger benefit. And their health coach, their physician, their chiropractor is going to check in with them because that person is getting a kickback. So they want them to pay the $9.99 for the all access and the extra features.
$9.99 for?
So for $9.99, they are going to get 10 additional guided breathing exercises that are all the 1 minute. They're also getting 10 binaural beats tracks. Each of the tracks can be specific to the needs of the person, whether they want to reduce stress, increase energy. And then the last one would be related to exercise. So it would give them exercises and videos of what to do if they choose to pick get up and move.
Is the $9.99 one-time fee per month?
It's a one-time fee. We wanted to keep the fee lower so that people would start to use it. And then as we see what people's needs are, moving to a model that could be monthly as we see where the most content is used.
So just to jump off of that same subject matter, so as far as your business model, do you have different tiers of subscription, or how does that work? Is it just like $9.99 for using the entire thing, the entire app forever, or because that seems like you're losing a lot of potential revenue that way?
Sure. So the first release would be the $9.99 for the all access,
Okay.
or if you as a user really identified with the Beats portion while you were using it, you could upgrade just for that for a $4.99 rate.
Okay.
One of the target markets that we're actually really strongly going after are people who don't know about meditation. They only feel really stressed out. They don't know what a chakra is. Don't come at me with your crystal therapy. So some of the other apps in this space are very centered on people who might already have a mindfulness practice and they just want to continue to do that. Whereas ours, we're really targeting the people who want to use it for 1 minute throughout the day. So we do get people who are looking for a reminder to be mindful or to engage in these relaxation techniques, as well as to get people hooked and create a healthy habit around it.
Okay, gotcha. I could also, just as a suggestion, it might be interesting to break down each of those sort of perks that you have. The 10 meditation, et cetera, all those things. Or I just see a lot of apps that just do 99 cents, add another one, 99 cents, so that people get bored. You're kind of like, oh, I want another one. Like you're kind of enticing them and playing to that gamification sort of thing. But then also, I think I think you guys did a great job of identifying the sort of the healthcare, hospital, doctor, physician, coach thing. I think it might be also very interesting if you guys went directly to the coaches first, as well as all the healthcare plans now have these sort of incentivized programs where you're doing things online and you're charting your exercise, et cetera, et cetera. I could see just doing a flat deal with them as well as putting your stuff in iTunes or whatnot.
Absolutely, yeah. We're really looking at the affiliate program as our first revenue stream, and Ashlyn being in the space, her peers, that's a huge market that we have at our fingertips right away.
For sure, yeah. Great pitch too.
So I'm curious about the 1 minute. Where is the data that the 1 minute is something that you can sell to both in the affiliate model of healthcare professionals, but then also to the individuals who want to use the app? Where's the 1 minute come from?
So there are studies that are specific for meditation about the benefits of stress release and more internal awareness for 10 minutes. And so we want to be the entry to potentially bigger practices. And so we broke that 10 minutes kind of down into the 1 minute.
All right, fantastic job. Do we have our next team on their way up?
Okay, here we go. My name is Parker. This is Erica. This is our wonderful team. We are Ride or Drive. So imagine you're coming up to Tahoe. It's 4th of July weekend. It's gorgeous out. People are driving here from far and wide, traveling long distances, and there's no traffic. What? Who wouldn't love that, right? So everybody knows of Uber and Lyft. And Uber and Lyft are two of the biggest rideshare companies in the world. They're billion-dollar companies that are missing out on a huge part of the pie. And that part of the pie is long distances for a small amount of money. And that's what we're here to fulfill. So, the problem. The number one problem is traffic. Traffic coming in and out of the Tahoe Basin is constant, it's forever growing, and it's always going to be an issue. So, the reason for that traffic is hugely in part due to so many individual drivers. So if there's a bunch of individual drivers, there's a lot more traffic. And that's because there's a bunch of seats in their cars that are empty and need filled. And with all that traffic, there's an extra environmental impact. So that brings us to our solution. So the solution is Ride or Drive. We are connecting riders and drivers across the board because everybody's already going from point A to point B. Now we're giving you a hub to hop in that ride. We're filling every seat in every car, and especially the long distance rides. These are long distance rides for a very, very small price. We're also helping people save money. We're improving the environment, and we're connecting people. Off to Erica.
Our customers. So our target market are travelers age 18 to 40 who are low to medium income range and are sustainably minded. So our initial rollout strategy is to focus on the people coming in and out of the Tahoe Basin who are in our target market, as well as the UC Davis campus. And the reason we're focusing on the UC Davis campus is because when we were doing some market research, we found that just on the Facebook page of the UC Davis ride sharing group, there were 26,000 members alone. So there's definitely a need there. For our financials, our first year end, we're estimating there will be 8,000 users. And our revenue will come from charging 15%, a lower rate than Uber or Lyft, from each transaction. And with these numbers, we're forecasting we will break even by the second quarter of year 2. So for customer retention, we have 3 main strategies. The first strategy is gamification. So the more people use the app, the more points they get. Also, people are building community and camaraderie. It's more of a social model. And then third, finally, users can actually track the pounds of CO2 that they're saving from the environment from our app. With that, Parker's going to show us how the app works.
All right. So the app is it's extremely straightforward, like other rideshare apps, really. You come on and you just say going from where to where. Then you select whether you're a driver or a rider, and there's other selections, male, female, 4-wheel drive car, energy efficient car, price, time, seats, departure date. So you can select more if you'd like to. Then it comes to the list. So this is just a big list that will just be populated by all the thousands of riders and drivers. So you can search it as a driver, and it shows you all the riders, where they're going, from where to where, for how much, and you can just add that rider or add that driver. There's also a map feature that it's just like a map that you can look on the map. You can see a bunch of pinned riders or drivers. They'll be separate colors. And you'll see just little lines going everywhere. Maybe you just want to hop on one of those rides. There's a profile, so you can see in the profile a little about you section, male or female, where you're from, so you can kind of get to know the person. You have the option to link it to your Facebook profile, yes or no. And then that's where, go back to the profile really quick. That's where you can see your miles saved, your emissions saved, your point rating, and familiarize more with the other fellow riders and drivers. And now we're going to show a little commercial we made.
Hey Bob, how's it going? Good, how's my radiator looking? 2 weeks to fix my radiator? But there's a whole bunch of powder in Tahoe right now. Alright, well it looks like I'm going to have to find another ride up there. Thank you. $10 for a ride. Definitely reserving that seat right now. Boom! Hi, are you Becca?
Yeah, come on.
Sweet, thanks for the ride.
No problem.
All right. Thank you. What's our time at? We're up. Okay, good. Nice. I know.
Here you go. It's okay. I'll pass it.
Okay.
No, it's fine. I'll facilitate.
I really like it when I can watch these things and laugh. That was well done. Thank you. My question is actually about scale. So what you've presented to us tonight makes a lot of sense for a rural area where there's lack of public transportation. But if we think about how you'd actually scale this app, how do you see that rolling out across? We'll just start with the US. Let's keep it small. Like, how would you roll this out across the US, given that this is primarily a rural problem, not so much an urban problem?
So we are actually using a model similar to how Facebook and Tinder started, where we're starting more on a targeted market, and then we're going to expand from there. And actually, Airbnb, some of the most popular rides right now are the shorter distance. So we actually think that this is quite a demand in more urban settings as well.
Yeah, the biggest reason we're choosing these colleges is because the demographic perfectly suits what we're offering. We're giving them the ability to go wherever they want. And we like to call these people a source hub, meaning you have a concentration of a large number of people that all come from the same area and go to various destinations. So this allows them to then coordinate with each other, figure out where they want to go, and then share rides to that place, and then probably share their ride on the way back. By doing it in these particular places and focusing very hard on certain niche environments, especially places like Davis, where they have a large geographical surrounding area that encourages them to use our product as opposed to Lyft or Uber, we are able to get a larger amount of market share. And since this is a demand-side economies of scale product, because it is a social network effectively, it means the more people in a market you have using it, the more value your product adds. That is why we chose to start in college campuses. And ultimately, once it becomes accepted by more and more people, then they will realize, because it's cheaper, the riders are setting the price for the drivers or vice versa, that it's a better value proposition for the customer than Uber or Lyft, even in smaller scales. Yeah.
Okay. Another question.
Sorry.
Really cleverly done, nicely executed. A question. Uber and Lyft in Austin, Texas, got killed by the regulators. And they did it on the premise that it's unsafe. We can't check out the drivers the way we want to check them out. You had a nice video there of people jumping in the car together, and luckily they like the same kind of music. But that can go the other way. So how do you keep people safe? How are you going to deal with the regulations?
Okay. So I mean, there's limits to what we can do since we're not directly controlling them. But basically, we believe that by giving the most information that's possible, we allow at least people to have an informed decision regarding who they're riding with. So if you remember on the first page of the app, you could select, say, for example, you're a younger woman trying to go somewhere, and you don't feel comfortable with an older male or whatever driving you somewhere. You can select and narrow down on the demographics that you feel comfortable with. And you can also see the history and the reviews of the person that you're either going to have as a rider or have as a driver to know, at least assume on their history, that they're more trustworthy.
And just to add, we will also consult with a lawyer and look at Lyft and Uber's models as well.
Now, you guys mentioned that you looked, when you did your market research, you were looking at Facebook pages and and things like that. Did you do any customer validation where you did any surveying or anything like that you can share with us?
I'm glad you asked that because we did do some validation. And in fact, we've found that 86% of locals we surveyed were likely to use the app, and 93% said that they would suggest the app to a friend. I mean, mind you, our survey size was pretty small, but we also have already gotten 27 emails of people who want to use the app and are ready to try it out. Well, that was only, the initial round was 14, but then we got additional people to get the 27 emails as well.
So we also went directly on Craigslist, where just in Reno, in the month of October, they had 141 people searching for rideshare opportunities, and the closest was Sacramento, the furthest was Arkansas.
Ride or drive. Great job, guys. Great job. Next team up, BFF.
Hi, guys. Hi, friends. Hey, so please raise your hand if you have a best friend. Awesome. Well, this is mine. This is Blanche, and I'm Darcy, and this is our awesome team. So Blanche and I actually travel a ton together. We go up the mountain, we snowshoe, we actually fly together too, and we're always on the go. I'm basically never home. I started to realize that I was forgetting to bring her food like a horrible dog mom. Basically, I was giving her half my salami sandwich all the time, and I was starting to worry about her nutrition intake when we were on the plane, and I also really didn't want to be bringing out her kibble in the airport lounge and feeding it to her because it just seemed kind of weird. So we developed a cookie, or basically a bar. We wanted something healthy that was on the go, that was good and healthy for humans and dogs, because I get hungry too. So lo and behold, BFF bars. So they're made for people, safe for dogs. The idea is basically that it's like a protein bar that you can actually rip directly in half and give half to your dog and half to you when you're on the go. So for lightweight backpacking, climbing, or even for the busy person on the go. People actually want it. We went out and we surveyed a bunch of people at the dog park. The response was overwhelming. People had the same problems that I did, especially in the Tahoe area with so many people who are going outdoors all the time with their pups. We also ran some AdWords campaigns just to gauge interest, and within 12 hours, we had 20,000 views on the campaigns, which is a pretty substantial number for a product that doesn't exist yet. We also interviewed pet businesses in South Lake Tahoe, Dog Cat, and Pet Station. Their employees said that we were the perfect fit for their stores and for their customer base. Our market opportunity is huge financially. I don't know if you guys know this, but in 2017 alone, the dog food industry topped 46.7 billion, and the energy bar industry, the nutritional bar industry, topped 2.5 billion with a 7% increase last year. Human grade pet food is beginning to dominate the pet food market. And TurboPup, a Shark Tank phenomenon projected 1 million in sales within the first year after getting their funding, and those bars are actually only good for dogs. Our possible competition, there is not a single bar out there right now that exists that's marketed to humans and dogs alike. There are dog bars and human bars, but nothing the two can share, or vet approved, which ours actually, the nutrition ingredients are vet approved. So our target market, the outdoorsman and their scout. This is the guy who's going climbing for the day with his pup from dusk to dawn. Dawn to dusk, sorry. But he's out for the day, and he's got a light backpack, and he doesn't want to carry his dog's kibble and his Sammy. So this is perfect for him. The busy pup parent, the family mom on the go. She's running her kids to and from school. The dog's in the back. There's dog hair everywhere. She doesn't get home to cook later, and she needs a snack for her, the kids, and the dog, because they're just together all the time. And the fit fab Fido, the yoga teacher who loves health, loves her dog, and she's always on the go, mindful of what she's eating and putting into her body and her dog's. So what's next? We want to go to market. We'd like to do online sales, online marketing. We'd really like to get into the outdoor space. We want to get in with the big guys. We know that we do great at Spartan Relays, the GoPro games, and the X Games. So what do we need to do that? Well, we did some market research. We would need $40,000 for startup costs. 10,000 of that is actually going to just production alone. And then that would be our first production run, a pretty extensive branding and marketing overhaul because we really need to be on the ground and get our name out there, marketing and events. So what's next? You guys want to try it? We actually have a prototype.
Okay, so awesome idea. I'm like one of those people that gets like a gag reflex when I think of dog food. So I love that you started with like, I love can you repeat your tagline again? It was like bars made for people, safe for dogs. Yeah. And I think that's like, I think just take me into account. I think a lot of people feel that way, which is probably why they've never blended the two. But so does it scare you at all that there's no competition?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we're excited because that's like an untapped market. And if you look at the size of both the power bar market, right, or the protein bar market, just like the nutritional bar market in general. And then I was surprised that there is a thriving dog power bar market. So we feel like we're kind of like well positioned to just be the first person to market.
Okay, awesome. So one thing that I didn't hear a lot about is your business model. Is there a price point? Who do you plan? Yeah, can you just expand upon your business model for us, please?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we looked at a couple different co-packers, and if you're not familiar with that terminology, what a co-packer does is you tell them what your recipe is. Sometimes they help you develop the recipe. We already have some. And then you tell them the ingredients, and they'll either source them or you can, have your contact. And then they actually manufacture it for you, and usually it's a minimum amount. So at the co-packer that we were looking at, it was a minimum order of 5,000 units, and we wanted to do 10,000 units because when you scale, they drop the price. And it ranged anywhere from $1 to $2, but what we were looking at making them at was $1.60 per bar. And then we were looking at selling them for $4 to $5 direct to consumer, and also ideally someday like in stores to retailers.
The feedback that we got with that, the people were saying that they would pay about $4 to $6 for them because if you think about it, you actually get, it's a 2-for-1, right? You're actually getting a 2-for-1. So.
Okay, thank you.
So have you thought about how you're going to go to market? I mean,
yeah, we have. So we got a lot of feedback from our mentors, and they basically said that the way to do this is to get the people who are obsessed with dogs and create an online community about it. So it wouldn't be about retail sales to begin with. It'd be more about online sales and getting these shipped to their doorstep, since they're obsessed with these dogs. So that's our go-to. And also, events are a big thing too. When you go out to these outdoor events, there's all these people and there's dogs walking around all the time. So it really could be a great sales strategy to go to the events as well.
So if your price point is $4 to $5, why would I spend that much when I can go buy a Kind bar, which is also like labeled as like all natural and raw, and do that for $2 and still feel like I wouldn't feel like a bad dog mom to give my dog half of a Kind bar, and I'd be spending half as much as I would on your bar?
Great question. So there's 2 points there. One is that it's pretty much double the amount that you would get in a Kind bar because it's meant specifically to be a full serving for a human and for like a normal sized dog about this size. And then the other thing is with Kind bar or these other energy bar companies, they're not really thinking about is there chocolate in there? Could that hurt the dog? Or are there other ingredients that a dog wouldn't do well with? So that would be why. Yeah, thank you,
That's
everyone.
good.
So
Good
thanks so much.
stuff.
Great job, BFF Bars. Good job, guys.
Okay, so ahoy, my name is David Brown. These are my team members, Kevin and Hamir, and our organizational name is called Boats and Snows. Now, we were put on Earth to solve the problem of expensive ownership in relation to recreational activities. So it's much to surprise to you that when our community name is called Lake Tahoe, that our biggest attraction is that body of water. So whether you're a tourist or a community member, you have two options in order to get out and experience that. You can own a vessel or you can rent. Now, if you own a vessel, boat is not a noun, is it? It's an acronym. And what does it stand for? Bust out another 1,000. So it's pretty clear, right, that owning a boat is not going to put money back into your pocket. But again, as far as taking your money, it's also going to take your time in upkeep. So what's your other option? To rent. Now, we can already see that from this graphic above, boat rental prices have appreciated 20% every 2 years for the last 10 years. So that is not a cost-effective strategy. But what you get with renting a boat is paying too high of a price for a lower quality product and not having the freedom to use that product in any manner that you want for any amount of time that you want. So our solution to this problem is our membership service called Boats and Snows that gives you seasonal access to 3 separate vessels in this fleet instead of just paying $1,400 a day for one vessel. So with that, we are totally blanking. Anyways. 3 separate vessels in this fleet, and we're going to offer that membership at a price that is going to cost you less money than solely owning just one of these vessels, also without the hassle and without the difficulty of having to manage that yourself. So with Boats and Snows, our mission statement is to facilitate convenience, to facilitate quality, and to facilitate freedom in this recreational experience for you.
And to validate this experience, we went out there and we talked to people on the Heavenly Quad, we went to the Marriott, we went to the casinos, we went to marinas, we talked to a few mortgage agents, and these all people were excited about this thing. A couple of them were very much like, where do I sign up for this thing? Because their experience with the rental property wasn't that great. Like they had a rental property during a summer and then they blew off their money and the quality wasn't good, the convenience wasn't good, and quality was not there. So what we are doing is we are trying to tap into that market, people who want to use their boats again and again and not just be bogged down because the rental quality wasn't good. So for a membership and talking to all these people, right? So we changed our strategy a little bit. What we did is we actually developed 2-tier plan for our membership. One's a premium membership and one's a local membership. With the premium membership, the cost is $15,000 per year, and the local membership is $3,000 a year. And with membership, what you get is an access to a fleet of toys. So as he said, right, we give you 3 toys to play with. That's a large boat, a ski boat, and a jet ski of higher quality. So if you are a premium member, you get a very high quality of these luxury boats to use at your own convenience, at your own time. You do not have to bring them back by 8 p.m. to the boat, or you have to take it back at 9 a.m. or anything like that. And everything will be convenient to you. Same goes for the $3,000 premium, local membership, but the quality wouldn't be that great, but the convenience and the comfort will be the same. So our market is for the people who actually want to come again and again to experience this thing for the same year. And we offer this thing for summer and winter. So we have fleets of snowmobiles and other snow vessels as well. But this thing is targeted only at boating right now. For marketing, what we did is like, through our mentors and coaches, we are gonna go out and launch it by actually tying up with some of the community clubs or Tahoe yacht clubs and try to give their people an access or free access for a whole day to use our vessels and see how their experience is. And if their experience is good, definitely the word of mouth is really there. And we can do some SEOs, we can do social media platform marketing as well. And also vacation rental properties is big in Tahoe. So if we can tap into those markets and actually promote through them, then it's a really killer. So that's where the marketing strategy is.
So we spent a lot of time looking at the numbers here, and obviously we have to buy some assets. to accommodate this. And our sales target for the first year would be to get 36 members. And if we got 36 members, we'd be making about 250 in the first year, and we'd have expenses of about 190. And over the time, we'd be able to grow. Oh, guess we're out of time. To 18%. And we do have a website, boatsandsnows.co.
Good job. Sounds exciting, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
How many people do you have sharing these assets, and how will you keep them from fighting with each other to get access to them?
Of course. So number one issue is that you have to schedule your time at least a month in advance to avoid conflict like that. Number two, in order to get the profit margin that we wanted at 18%, we found that per unit, which actually means 3 separate vessels, large boat, ski boat, and jet ski, we need to have 12 different members sharing that asset per season. That would be about over a 2-month span, anywhere from 60 days, give or take.
Can you go back to your financial slide?
Of course. You got that, Hamir? Thank you.
So tell me how your first year expense is $191,000 when you're going to have luxury and non-luxury recreational year-round vehicles for 36 clients? How does, because I want to know how to buy all that shit for $191,000 is really what my question is.
Absolutely, yeah. So like I said, per unit, that includes 3 different vessels. Our luxury segment is a large ski boat, jet ski. Our local segment is actually not including a jet ski, it's including a paddleboard. Or sorry, it's not including a large boat, it's including a paddleboard. So at that local segment, we can purchase a not brand new, but very well maintained and quality ski boat, paddleboard, and jet ski for about $15,000 per unit if we don't buy new. For the luxury segment, we can get a large boat, which includes anything with a cabin, 28 feet and over, a quality ski boat no less than 8 years old, and a jet ski for about $87,000 because we're definitely going to have to buy the best in the business. So, yeah.
Have you included liability, insurance, and maintenance into this 190? I'm still trying.
No,
like,
absolutely.
I want to get
So,
to 191 personally, so I just.
Yeah, no, that's totally understandable. So our month-to-month costs are going to be about $6,800. That's going to total to $78,000 per year if you just times that by 12. And then we're going to use debt and equity financing.
During winter.
So maybe I should point out that we're going to have more expenses than 191. Obviously, we're going to have a lot more assets, but we're not going to start out by buying 30 different vessels. We're going to try to start out by buying anywhere around 8 to 10. And then we're not going to pay that off all at once. We're going to have to finance it. So built into our business model is 25% of our gross revenue going towards our liabilities every year. And we have a very detailed explanation of that, but we can pay off that debt in about 4 years. So during year 5, that's why our revenue has went up, because we're planning on having more members and a lot less liability that's going to take out our profit.
Okay. So why did you decide to go after the luxury market?
Because I feel like it's something that's untapped, and the value in that is that people can always buy something, but you don't get to an affluent state by wasting money, right? So just because you have the money doesn't mean you're willing to waste it. So if we can make that cheaper for somebody, if we can make them only pay when they're using something, and if we can also make that convenient and make sure that what they're paying for, they are getting to use, they're not working on or trying to fix, we feel like that is where our solid value proposition lies.
Yeah, I mean, it's super awesome that you're going after the luxury market, I have to say, because your business model looks a lot different than, say, selling an app for 99 cents, right? Like, it's a really quick way to get to a profit margin if you can do it right. So I think it's a great idea, actually. But I do have a question about your customer validation. So because you are going after a luxury, there's only a certain segment of the population that can afford $15,000 a year on recreational rentals. What did you take that into account when you did your customer validation?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we did. We actually, when we approached these people, when we talked to these people, when I said I talk to affluent people, when you go to casinos and high roll tables and you talk to them, if you just approach them, they will actually talk to you about it. We went to the mortgage people and all that stuff. And when we pitched the values to them, we actually started off with a higher value with a longer term period. But then it turned out, like after the feedback, it turns like longer period might be or might not be a good thing, but for a shorter period, like a 1 year and 15K is something they would be very agreeable to. And they were very happy about it as well.
And also, yeah, we talked to one individual and he said, you know, he spent for a summer like 25K just to keep his boat in the water. And he said to me, like, and he's over it. He doesn't want to have a boat anymore. So he's like, to me, this is a deal. You know, 15K is a lot of savings.
And we definitely tried to discriminate to people who looked like they were wearing nice clothes. They were a little bit older than the typical distribution of age, that sort of thing. So when we talked to people, we were looking for affluence. And
Remember last January, I'm sure several people do, after dealing with the flood at the Moose Lodge and feeling a bit overwhelmed, I was driving to a friend's house with a snowblower in the back of my vehicle. And I was looking in the rear mirror and feeling a bit overwhelmed because everybody was calling me, asking for assistance of helping them out because all the contractors in town were also overwhelmed. And because I was being overwhelmed, I was trying to figure out how I could help the town. And that's where I got the aha moment. SnowGo Now is a text messaging system platform for connecting a customer with an independent contractor for snow removal utilizing a snowblower, not unlike Uber utilizes independent drivers and vehicles to transport people.
Imagine waking up and looking out your front window and seeing 2 feet of snow in your driveway. I'm sure we've all experienced that. And wondering if you're going to be able to get to that very important meeting planned for that day. What do? Text the word sign up to 530-296-4046. Utilizing a smartphone, a tablet, or a computer. You will then be texted back a response asking for your personal and financial information and linked with a certified independent contractor nearby able and willing to remove the snow from your driveway. The system will notify the customer that someone is en route to provide this service within 15 to 30 minutes. Anyone with a snowblower who wants to utilize our system must first sign up and provide the necessary personal information. The independent contractor who has verified insurance, equipment certification, and provided the proper documents logs in by texting the word work to 530-296-4046, and then the system sends them a response letting them know they are now in the system and available for work. When the contractor arrives on site, he or she takes a photograph utilizing a smartphone of the driveway and determining the size, condition. The depth is checked by utilizing a graduated pole. After the snow is removed, the contractor then texts a photo of the completed job and the system sends a text to the customer, thanking them for using our service and a receipt. Driveways are categorized by square footage and are grouped into small, medium, and large, extra large, varying in price from $70 to $120. There may be an extra expense for removing an ice berm or an abnormal debris. The contractor receives 80% of the total fee, and it is then deposited into the account by the system. Anyone who sees this as a viable way of addressing snow removal, please sign up today by texting 530-296-4046. Thank you.
As someone who consistently dreads, like I don't shovel, I refuse to do it anymore. But this, I really like what you're doing here. But I have a couple questions. My understanding is that this is for people who don't have service signed up, so they're basically in a pinch. So how are you ensuring that there's actually going to be people available to remove their snow? Because if they're not, like everybody else, then you're done. So how do you make sure you have a workforce? Where's your fleet? How do you ensure that?
There's always people in Tahoe who are always looking for an extra way to make money. I am an Uber and Lyft operator as well as everything else in Tahoe, and I do know that I have my Facebook friends who are part of the rideshare communities who are always looking for extra ways to make money. There's always their high school students. We're going to be using social media, obviously, and going that route, putting ads in papers and whatnot.
So because you're going to be targeting people who don't have service, they haven't paid for their annual plan, are you charging a premium? Or like how are you what are you charging and how are you making money? Because is this a premium, like you're totally like, if you don't call us, you're going to be shoveling all day, so we're going to charge you extra? Or is this like an affordable option for people who can't shell out the $500 at the beginning of the season? Like how are you positioning yourself?
Well, for those people who do have contracts and those contracts are not able to be fulfilled because of the what is it called? Supply and demand. They will be probably able to call us, and a single car driveway is $70. The double car driveway is $80, and it goes up to $120.
So I'm still a little bit confused about how you're ensuring that you have a workforce. You know, you're talking about high school kids and Uber drivers. I mean, you have to have a snowblower to do this job, and those things cost some bank. So how do you make sure that that you have enough folks and that they actually have the right equipment to do the job?
Well, for example, I'm not going to be the one who goes out there with my 4 snowblowers that I own in the backyard. But for those of us who do have extra snowblowers, who have people who need that extra income, they'll probably be able to work it out. Also,
what? Also, we know from experience. I've been living here for 27 years, and Diana's been here for about 12, and we've dealt with this every year. There's people out there that they get stuck. I mean, they just like, the guy didn't show up. He's an hour late. I need to get to a meeting. What am I going to do? And we are a premium service. That's exactly what we're going to be. But we're also competitive because the average driveway is done for about 65 bucks. So we're at 70 and we're going to 120, and we're even doing the big driveways for that. So, and as far as our workforce, I'm not even worried about that. That's going to be there. I know enough people personally that we've already been approached by it. When we talk to our friends and stuff, they said, yeah, I know people that will definitely be on this.
I think the other thing to keep in mind is that the workforce is already constrained, especially when there's a big, snowfall. And so this is going to allow at least the possibility to tap into a community of folks who weren't typically part of this workforce, had no access to gigs. And now they're going to, so I think we're actually improving the workforce. Whether we can improve it enough to service all the demand, maybe not on a big snow day, but it's still better than prior.
I don't really have any questions. It's really simple. I like that you just kept it to one slide. I think the texting option is awesome. The only question I do have a question. When you text, so I think it's super simple to just text. I love that idea, and I love that you get an automatic response, and you can obviously update them as well, if your guy's going to be late or et cetera, et cetera. But how do they pay? Because I think it would be fascinating if you could also pay somehow through mobile. Yeah.
So you can actually, when you go and register, and by the way, this works, anybody can sign up right now. If you fill out that customer sign up form, it actually collects payment information. So we actually keep that tied to your phone number account, right? And so we can just charge you when we deliver service.
Okay, interesting. Okay, thank you.
So.
All right. Hey, how about those presentations tonight, guys? I am so proud of you guys for everything you put together this weekend. Fantastic job. I mean, it is so tough. I've been through it. I've been in your shoes. I've gone and done the startup weekend from start to end, and you're up here sweating bullets, trying to figure out how you demonstrate everything that you think you've accomplished over the course of a weekend and make it, wrap it all up into one solid business concept. So congratulations to you guys. You did a great job. Did anybody here learn something this weekend? All right. Hey, that's part of it. That's really the biggest part of this is learning by doing. Learning by doing. You've all worked on starting a business. I'm hopeful that you'll continue working on it going forward. I've got to give a big thank you to, again, our judges. How about these judges here? Our coaches, our sponsors, and our organizers. Guys, it really is a community effort putting together events like this and starting businesses, and you guys are now part of it. So part of the question is, what's next? Statistically, about 12% of you will continue with your startup weekend idea. That's not to say your team. The most important thing here, and we've talked about it a lot, is the team is greater than the idea, right? Building a team, and we've heard from speakers tonight, from our panel discussion, that's one of the keys of what you need to work on. And again, you're going to fail. Allison, how many times, what was it, 6, 7 times you failed? I mean, it's going to happen, and learn from it. It's a learning experience. Please don't stop learning. There's a lot of great programs through Techstars, through organizations in our community, through stuff that Ashley and Jeff and Jen are all working on. Please just be involved in the community. I also need to tell you that Techstars, Startup Weekend is part of Techstars, and Techstars has lots of great programs going on all around the world. You heard a little bit about some of that tonight, going on in 16 cities, 23 programs. It's the opportunity for you to get access to capital, additional mentorship, marketing, business development, customer development. Like, these are all things that are part of being in the Techstars family. And of course, building the network, as you heard tonight, is an important part of that. So we're hopeful that you'll take some of these ideas and these teams and the things you're putting together and allow that to lead into some of the other programs that are out there for you. Again, this is a community-wide effort. And in order to succeed, you need to just be engaged in the community. These are some of the places that you should be looking for. What's the next event? What else is going on in the community? How can I stay engaged? And how can I learn more as I'm in the process of starting a business or becoming an entrepreneur? Also, please make sure to help us improve. There's a survey that you'll receive on Tuesday. Okay, please make sure to fill that out. It gives feedback about me, about the organizers, about the venue, about how we've done this entire weekend. I would love to hear back on that. So please fill that out when you get it in your inbox. And now, we're coming to the moment of truth. Now, one thing I want to say, this is a very tough deliberation. It really was. Judges, was this tough? I mean, this is tough. Yeah. But guys, the point is, even if you don't or didn't win tonight, that's not the point. The point is that you have learned some great things over the course of this weekend, and we want each and every one of you to continue to know that just because you're not number one, number two, number three on the list, that doesn't mean that you don't have a great idea, and it doesn't mean that you shouldn't continue. Continue with all your might. What was the phrase that you used earlier, Allison? You've got to be determined. You cannot give up, right? Persist. Persist is the key. So, all right, drum roll, please. Starting with third place. Can I get my judges up here? Third place team. Every minute counts. Come on down, guys. Great job. As the third place team, you get a 3-month subscription to Buzz Tools to push out into social media, get more awareness. Also, $40 toward Larker to help make sure you deal with any mental health concerns about not getting second or first. But Larker. All right, hey, get on in here, guys. Get on in for a picture. Hey, get on, come here. Hey, great job, guys. Hey, great job. Awesome. Awesome job, guys.
Thank you.
Great job. Oh, 2 places left here. Who's it going to be? All right. Second place goes to Snow Go Now. As second place, we'll have a 6-month subscription to Buzz Tools and also $40 worth of Larker credit, not to mention these beautiful trophies right here. All right, Snow Go. Get on in here, guys. Judges, get on in here. Come on.
Yeah, let's do it.
We are a family. Everybody in Tahoe is a family. That's a fact.
Hey, Snow Go Now. Great job, guys. First place. BFF bars. Come here, Blanche. First place, again, a 90-day membership to Startup NV, 90-day membership to Tahoe Mountain Lab, and a 1-year subscription to Buzz Tools plus $85 with Larker. Great job, guys. Hey, can we get everybody down here real quick? Can we get everybody down here? Let's get a big group picture. Come on down. Come on down. Great job, everybody.